Phenomenology literally means a science of the phenomenon, and it's concerned with how and where phenomena appear, and how do they appear to our consciousness. So for that, the subject explores how consciousness can be structured to receive appearances, and then how are the appearances of objects, feelings, events given to us, and what is involved in creating a description. For Husserl, the search was for things as they really are, and the building up of an accurate description. At first sight, that may seem that this is entirely a descriptive study. It is, in fact, much more than that. For Husserl, producing the phenomenological description required four elements at the very least. The first is what he termed the natural attitude. The second is suspension of judgment, or epoché, or bracketing. You will find all three terms in his work. The third was his overall concern with intentionality, with how we intend, and not intending is as much a feature of intentionality as an actual decision. So how is intentionality actually carried out? And fourth, and this is the key research element, how do we move from the natural attitude to the phenomenological attitude? I start this by quoting from Husserl, who wrote, "We begin our considerations as human beings who are living naturally, objectivating, judging, feeling, willing in the natural attitude. The natural attitude has two basic characteristics. It's directed in a straightforward manner towards its objects, and it's convinced these objects are not only there, but exist independently of us. So when we are in the natural attitude, we perceive things as they are. We take their appearances for granted, and we assume that they were there yesterday or that they will be there tomorrow. If we encounter a problem or something that is new, we immediately relate it to things that seem to be similar that we have met in the past. It's only when we come up against something that we haven't met before and we cannot find anything to compare it with, to connect it with, that we are, in a literal sense, lost for words. For Husserl, we spend a great deal of our time, almost all of our time, in the natural attitude. And this is something that is certainly captured in literature. If you take Will Self's novel Umbrella, then Audrey Death is in the natural attitude during the part of her life that we see during the First World War and up to the point where she is detained in a mental hospital. When she comes out of the catatonic state following the use of drugs, she is again in a natural attitude towards the world around us. She has missed out on nearly 50 years, but she immediately compares what she sees in the 1970s, where the novel is set, with her experience, with her life as she knew it in the 1920s. And again, when the novel is updated to the 2000s, we see a similar process. So for Husserl, the natural attitude is particularly important. It's what we are in most of the time. If you think about a disaster, which after all is the topic of your assessment, the natural attitude comes into play at once. There are people, no matter what the disaster, living their lives naturally, and then suddenly something happens. How do you locate it? What do you compare it with? What do you contrast it with? And it's that process, that phenomenology, wishes to explore. So the natural attitude is crucial to this. We have inevitably intentions towards people, events. We wake up, we do things, we do them in a matter-of-fact way, but nevertheless they are governed by intentionality. The intention may not be explicit, it may simply be to get to work on time, or it may be to cook a meal for the family, or to read a book. There is certainly an intentionality there. And for Husserl, because consciousness is always consciousness of something, we are always have intentions towards what is there in our consciousness. And that element to which we have an intention, Husserl called the noema. The noesis is the actual process, the intentional process of intending in towards whatever object it is. I don't particularly want to go on about it in a lecture of this sort. I think the place for it is a discussion in the classroom. But it seems to me the experiences and the issues in the UK raised currently by the Jimmy Savile case raise exactly these questions and issues of natural attitude and intentionality. And you may want to explore that in class discussion. So natural attitude, intentionality are clear there.